Hello, good morning, and welcome to our ninth session of our subject IT 320. So we are now on Unit 4, Chapter 9. Our topic for this morning is about simple API for XML. So before we start, let's have our objectives. Number 1, we're going to discuss the importance of simple API. Number 2, we're going to discuss the valued importance of simple API for XML integration and architecture. And number 3, understand the basic components of simple API for XML. So SaxParser, or in short, simple API for XML, is an event-driven online algorithm for parsing XML documents. So with an API developed by XML development main list, we'll be able to provide mechanism for reaching data from an XML document that is alternative to that provided by the DOM, or what you call the document object model. So where the document object model operates on document as a whole and building the full abstract syntax tree of an XML document for convenience of the user. So what does Sax do, or simple API for XML? SaxParser operates on each pieces of XML document. So therefore, it is issuing a parsing event while making a single pass through the input streams. So an example of that is on figure 24 for the Sax event handler. So you can see there the Sax reader is being on the process from the SaxParser factory going to the SaxParser, or the processes in which you're going to use XML. So for your information, XML is extensible markup language. These are documents, text or pictures that are converted into web pages. So they are then processed on a Sax reader, and the final output will be the content handler, error handler if any, the DTD handler, and the entity resolver. So what is the benefit of a SaxParser? So a SaxParser only needs to report each parsing event as it happens. So this parsing event is similar to compiling, in your compiler. Going back to our previous subjects, that you are encoding on the codes that you have for C#. So what you're doing there when you're running the program is to compile first, then run. So it's similar in such a way that your your Sax, or the simple API for XML, is doing the same. However, the content is different. So the content for the SaxParser is XML. Now you are not compiling anything on a Sax, but you are converting documents from either picture or text into a web page. So thus the minimum memory requirement for SaxParser is proportional to the maximum depth of the XML file. Now for the Sax, or the simple API for XML, it is an event-driven online algorithm for parsing XML documents. With API development by XML development main list, Sax provides a mechanism for reading data from an XML document, and that is the alternative to the provided by the document object model. So wherefore, the DOM, or the document object model, operates on the document as a whole, building the full abstract syntax tree of the XML document for convenience of the users, and that the SaxParser operate on each piece of the XML document sequentially, issuing parsing events while making a single pass through the input stream. So now if we are going to consider the IPO flow of things, like for example in programming, what you are having is the code being an input, and then the compiler on the process, and the output is the end product for the program. Now comparing it to the SaxParser, or Sax mismo, you'll be able to input documents such as text and objects, including pictures, still pictures, motion pictures, and then these are converted into a process, what you call the SaxParser. Then afterwards, the output will be your web pages. So the memory is usually considerable negligible for this process, and that the DOM parser, in contrast, has to build 3 representation of the entire document in memory to begin with. So thus using memory that increase with the entire document length, and this takes considerable time and space for large documents. So the compensating advantage, of course, is that once loaded, any part of the document can be accessed in that order. Now remember that due to the nature of the DOM, or the document object model, you're going to stream reading from disk requires techniques such as lazy evaluation, caches. So caches is found in your memory, the virtual memory, no, and then the persistent data structures or other techniques. So processing XML documents larger than main memory is sometimes thought impossible because some DOM parser do not allow it. However, it is less possible than sorting a data set larger than the main memory using disk space as memory to sidestep this limitation. So other tasks such as sorting, rearranging sections, getting from a link to its target, looking up information on one element to help the process a later one. Now, if there are advantages of Sax development, we have a drawback also, or the disadvantage. The event model or the event-driven model for Sax is useful for XML parsing, but it does have certain drawbacks. So virtuality, any kind of XML validation requires access to the document in full, and the most trivial example is that the attribute declared in the DTD to be type IDREF requires that there be only one element in the document that uses the same value for an ID attribute. So when we are talking to have an attribute for these are just example of the use cases that you're going to consider in your application. When I speak about use cases, so speaking of, you're having your systems analysis and design, and it is under on your UML topic, no. So a UML is a unified modeling language, and in UML you'll be able to know classes and objects and attributes. So these are the things that you need to remember, because a UML is the blueprint of anything that is documented on systems development. So additionally, there are some kinds of XML processing which simply requires having access to the entire document, no. So example of this is the path XLT or the XPath, and these are needed to access any node at a time in a parse XML tree. So these nodes are just the computer systems that you are manipulating XML documents. Now, I don't know if you can relate to this, but if you are going to have a field trip on Cebu City, going to the XML factory in their IT park, I think this is a very good example of our topic for this morning. So what they did is they accompanied their client from the United States, usually send them books or encyclopedias and other certain reading material that contains pictures, still pictures, moving pictures, and text. So these are converted into XML. So they claim that they can process 20 books in one day. So we don't know yet if that books has how many pages. So ang ginahimo lang nanda, ginautod ng daya libro, isa-isa ng daya pages, and then gina-scan. Then after scanning the document, they be able to convert it into XML. Now again, what is XML? XML is an extensible markup language, and XML is the revised or improved version of your HTML. So your HTML is a basic web process wherein you're converting text and pictures into web pages. However, extensible markup language is more robust. At the same time, it is more convenient to be placed on the web. So instead of HTML, they're using XML. And XML is a very good platform for converting any input that you wanted to convert to web pages. For XML processing with Sax, a parser that implements Sax functions as a stream parser with an event-driven API. So the example of this is the XML text codes, XML element starts and ends, processing instructions, and comments. Now on your activity, what you're going to do, guys, is to convert this. That is activity number 9. You are given XML file handler. So what about this? What you're going to do is to convert this to XML3. So before we do that, let me stop presenting. Can you raise your hand, guys, for initial reaction regarding the very good, thank you. So that means that you are listening in our lesson for this morning. So again, let me present to you a demonstration on how are we going to get the activity for this week. So let me share my entire screen. Okay, so all you have to do, guys, is to type online IDE for XML. Okay, so we have several guys, editor. So let's just explore kung diin niya mas okay kananda. So then afterwards, you go back to the XML document, and then please copy this. You can also write it manually kung gusto nyo, and go back to the editor. So our goal is to get it on XML3, no? So paste it here. So this is our code in XML. Okay, then click this one. Okay, so supposedly may magwa daya din nga guys, oh. Okay, valid XML, XML3. Okay, so this is not what I'm expecting. Okay, let's have another editor. Okay, so this one is automatic. Automatic lang ang XML3, no? So islan naton daya, guys. I-paste man naton ang kagina. Okay, so this is the XML3. So this is what we are after, no? So then you can print screen. Then this will be your output. You're going to convert it to PDF and then upload it in your Google Classroom. So take note, this is activity number 9. So you can use Tutorials Point Online XML Editor or any editor, provided that you're going to have an XML3. So this one. This is our output. Okay, you can have another. Let's see. So this one. So this is the tree view. So we are after the tree view of our activity. So you can use CodeBot Beautify or XML online XML editor for Tutorials Point or other kinds of editors, guys. Basta may tree siya. Okay. Okay, so do you have any question regarding our activity for this week? So after our discussion this morning, I'm going to activate your quiz for this week. Please answer your quiz. Yes, Joyce Ann, do you have any question? Joyce, do you have any question because you're raising your hand? Ay, nagwa si Joyce. Okay, so no question, guys. Any question regarding our activity? Okay, so no question. Okay, So please answer your quiz. After this, you have until midnight to answer it. And next week, I'm going to give your midterm exam already. So I think your midterm exam is multiple choice, man, just like your quiz. However, you're going to answer it in 1.5 hour or 1.5 hour only. 90 minutes. I think that is enough already to answer your activity, no, your examination. So, or maybe 2 hours. I can give you 2 hours siguro para bastante ang answer ka questions, no. So I will just announce next week what date are we going to ano. So I'm not going to give you anymore your any activity for next week, but we will be having our midterm exam. Okay, so clarifications, guys. The same process, online exam, then multiple choice 1 to 90 items, and then I'm gonna give you 2 hours to answer it. Okay, so thank you very much for attending our class this morning. Let me produce a screenshot of your attendance. Okay. Okay, so that ends our activity for our lesson for this morning. See you during our midterm exam. Thank you, guys, and good morning.